Hey everybody, welcome. What's going on? We are the Heavy Metallurgy Album Club. Hope you are doing well. Hope you've had a great week so far. I'm Marty. Good to see you. And well, let's get this guy directly south of heaven from me here. Jim's this. What's up?
No, not much. Been was a good week, and then my dog started getting real sick, so I've been dealing with that. It's not been great, but
Yeah.
every pet owner's been through it, so I know you guys know how it is.
Oh, yeah.
But back to metal. Also, Marty, you sound like you're talking into a cardboard box. I don't know why that is, but
Really?
I know what's going on there. Yeah.
Was it for everybody or just for Jim?
Can you guys hear that?
No, yeah, you do sound a bit like when your headphones unplugged.
Okay. Let me back out and jump back in. Go ahead and talk amongst yourselves. I'll be right back.
Okay. So, Paul Bear, Forgotten Days. I kind of listened to this and really liked it and put it on the shelf right after I got it and listened to it. But then the amazing streamingness that we have at our disposal, it came back in my wheelhouse and I was like, wait, man, there's some really heavy killer sound riffs on this. So it's a really good record, man. I'm not a fan of their new one at all, but this one's great. So highly recommend checking it out for just some super, super heavy, big, loud, thick riffs. Good Paul Bear. I love Heartless too. That's another great one. Also, Obituary self-titled. This was such a great comeback record for me.
A good album.
It was the Obituary I've been looking for ages because they had a run of so many records that I didn't like, but this one was the songwriting was there. The new ish guitar player at the time was really pulling it off. So I love his solos. Really added some energy into it. So great comeback record from Obituary here. Yeah, lots of good stuff on there. 10,000 Ways to Die. End It Now. That's a really, really awesome song. And what would a week be? That little bit of Dio. Yep. Pretty sure I showed this before. Don't care. Showing it again because I listen to this and I like it a lot. So more Dio because, yes, man, we are all rock and roll children. Live long.
Right on.
All right. So that's what I got this week.
Am I fixed? Do I sound like shit still, or is it better?
You still sound like you're talking into a cardboard box to me, so I don't know what's going on.
Yep, a little muffled.
Interesting. Hold on. Let me Kellen, why don't you go and I'll continue to see what's going on here.
All good. Yeah. So happy after sort of a strange jumped in the middle of class in Atlanta to catch the Warlord stream and finally back at it for a full album club after missing last week. But yeah, so I've been pretty busy in my world. Had to go to Atlanta for work and then came back. And my wife was in a play over the past weekend, so I went to see her perform, and then my family was in town to support her and visit me in Kentucky. So been pretty busy, I guess, past 2 weeks for me. So happy to sit down for album club and trying to get back to a regular schedule. Yeah, there's kind of an assignment coming up here on Heavy Metallurgy. I hadn't touched this record in a little bit, but I grabbed it, and it's a great. It just reminded me of this time of year, and it's perfect. I really enjoy And Again Into the Light. This is a solid record, and for this springtime, it just reminded me what was going on. COVID 2020, this record sort of building up and coming out. So I had a great time revisiting this album.
Now available on CD. Shop.vinelandrecordings.com.
There you go. That set me up perfectly, Marty. Thank you.
Along with Rhyme of Memory also. So definitely go check those out.
In other news, there's a cool theater here in town that is I've been around for a century, and they put on this cool summer series of films. So when my parents were in town, we all got together and piled into this old school theater to watch Big Trouble in Little China together, which was awesome. So a lot of fun. And anyway, they're playing Blade Runner later this summer, and this is a record by a kind of doomy band out of Lord Vigo out of Germany came out, I want to say around the same time period in 2020, but all inspired by sort of Blade Runner themes. So inspired me to pull that out and give this a spin. And outside of that, one from last year that I just wanted to spend a little bit more time with. If you caught our heavy metallurgy stream at the end of 2024, this is a self-titled from Bog Ore. I really enjoyed this. So
Cool cover.
yeah, Adam Burke artwork. Anyway, so you heard probably, if you tuned in to let me sort of speak on this one for a little bit, you can go revisit that stream, but that's what I've been listening to as well.
All right. Logan.
Cheers, guys. Yeah, doing pretty good here. Finally scored a highlight of 2025 so far, and this was a band that I actually hadn't really clicked with until a certain heavy metallurgy album review that I watched, and I was like, oh, okay, I gotta give this another spin, gotta give this a listen. And yeah, Tavastland, probably one of the best albums to come out so far in 2025. Callan's and Alan's review nails the like infectious, epic heavy metal, and combined with the black pagan metal that is this album. It's so many awesome moments. Every song is superb, and happy to finally own this one. Check out the review and all the other reviews that we have on heavy metallurgy. And then I don't know if it was the whole Pope shindig that happened this past week, but I ended up jamming a bunch of Christian metalcore and moshing in honor or in spite of whatever that was. And Zao was one of the chief bands that I frequented. This is their newest album, Crimson Corridor. Probably their most adventurous one. Honestly, I don't know if you could call this metalcore anymore. It's got such a sludgy, almost post-metal sections at times, but then at the same token, it goes like full-blown abrasive mathcore kind of sounding. It's a cool, hodgepodge of all the different styles. So I love all eras of Zao, but I think they're in a pretty great one right now. So yeah, Zao's still around and kicking. And then it is getting warm. The weather is nice and hot and perfect for a California band, Fu Manchu. This is their debut album, No One Rides for Free. So many great riffs on here. So many great riffs across really all of the Fu's albums. And absolutely love the song, track 2, Ojo Rojo. So this one's awesome too.
All right. I'm assuming my mic is fixed now. It went to for some reason it switched to the Logitech camera mic. I don't know why. Anyway.
Yep, sound good now, dude.
Sound good.
Well, the computer crashed or something and it reset stuff. Anyway, what have I been listening to? Well, me and the kid were out doing deliveries and stuff today with this playing. Obviously not the vinyl version. I left the CD in the vehicle, but Raging Steel by Death Row, their second album, came out in 1987 on Noise Records. We covered the Deception Ignored album, which is it's just amazing the advancement the band went from this album to the overly techy, a million riffs per song formula. But here, this is just right in league with bands like Rage for the time and Halloween for the time. It just very much a thrashy, heavy metal, speed metal conglomeration. Just a really good band. Probably, I don't know, probably my second favorite of the three. But yeah, really good stuff. And I've been getting back to this band again. Djevel. 3 albums that I've shown on here before. I listened to these 2 multiple times this week, and then this one today. Tanker Salmrir Notten, I don't know. Whatever. Really excellent Trondheim style black metal. The main guy from this band passed away this year. But he had apparently music on his computer for the next album, so they're going to put out one more album before calling it a day. And I don't know how to pronounce this. I started spinning this today. Hjorte with where gods have red on yellow, really? Where gods have eyes. I don't know. Here you go. This is what it looks like. I can't read the yellow font, the red font on the yellow background with my old eyes in this lighting environment. But this was put out on CD by Elte Seelen, which is the dudes from Canis Dearest, their new label and distribution. This year, I think. Really solid, woodsy, atmospheric black metal. Really good stuff. Really been enjoying it. I've only got about 3/4 of the way through, but before I ran out of time. But yeah, enjoyable. Going to be definitely spinning that a bit more. Go check out Elte Seelen. They have a site up selling a bunch of stuff, bunch of CDs. But today we are talking about, help me here. They're pronounced
Where's Roger?
Kvelertak. Yeah. We're talking about their debut 2010 album, self-titled. Kvelertak is a debut album by Norwegian band Kvelertak, released on 21st June 2010 through Eihwaz Recordings. The album was released in North America. Is this what I want? Yep. On the 15th of March through the End Records with 6 bonus tracks, 4 live recordings from the group's BBC sessions, and 2 demo tracks. That's not exactly what I wanted here. Hold on. I'm a little scattered today, apparently. Okay, here we go. Kvelertak, which is Norwegian for Stranglehold, is a Norwegian heavy metal band from Stavanger, formed in 2007. The group comprises vocalists. It goes through their names. They're all Norwegian. Sorry. Yep. Then there was a lineup change. Most of the band's songs have Norwegian lyrics, and their main influences are rock and roll, black metal, and punk rock. The band's self-titled debut was released in 2010, which is what we're talking about this evening, and sold more than 15,000 copies in Norway alone. The second album, Mir, was released in 2013, followed by Nattesfjord in 2016 and Split in 2020. Split was the band's first album with Ivar Nikolaisen on lead vocals. So there you go. First impressions, Kellen.
So I had never heard of this band when Logan pulled it last week. I think I did immediately recognize the album artwork, though. That looked familiar in terms of style. I think people in the chat at the time were pointing out that it looked like the Baroness artwork, and sure enough, I think it's the same guy who's doing it here. But the hint was it was supposed to be kind of like an upbeat sort of summertime, getting ready for that kind of vibe. And I think, that was my initial impression, very much so. It sounded like just kind of a easygoing party record for the sun and beer on the front lawn kind of deal. So if that was the intent, it very much sort of accomplished that. But I did kind of scratch my head a little bit in terms of like where this fell in terms of what we're kind of listening to, and it's an interesting mix of styles for sure.
Jim.
Oh, Logan. All right, so I like black and roll. I really do like later Satyricon, even though a lot of people really hate it. But man, I didn't know what to make of this. I was like, black metal meets Foo Fighters. It was interesting. I mean, the solos sound like there's a lot of. I feel like they listen to a lot of Guns N' Roses, and I've seen photos now online of the second singer, not the guy that was on this record. He actually has like an Axl Rose headband he'll wear.
That might be who it. I don't know who I put in the picture. I was having without the Metal Archives hookup and finding out who was in the band. I just grabbed. I got sick of it. Fuck it, and grabbed a picture. Anyway,
yeah, and and I like Guns N' Roses. I think Appetite for Destruction is one of the greatest rock albums ever. It's a great record, and they've got some good songs here and there on their other albums. But yeah, man, I didn't know what to make of this. I was like, when the black metal parts come, and they're kind of few and far between, but when they do come, they sound pretty potent, like on the first song, Olvatid and stuff. But I think the rock far outweighs the metal here, and yeah, I mean, I think I would actually, the this is a tough one for me, because I'm, there's some things about it that I'm like, hey, is that really a bad idea, to like, lean more into the rock thing with a black metal aesthetic, what if I say I like, black and roll, then why am I struggling with this one a little bit? But I think really what it is because the music is more rock and the black metal is more, the vocal is the black metal piece for the most part, and so to me, like it just kind of it felt more sticky to me for that reason, like that there wasn't more of a balance. It's like, hey, we're going to be a rock band. We know this guy down the street who listens to Take, and let's get him on the mic. You know what I mean? So and yeah, just a little tough for me. And maybe if there was more of a balance, like if it was more like really kind of like half and half musically, I could have got there more. But there are some cool things about it. This isn't like a turd of a record or anything. And and definitely if you're like rolling down the highway, beyond the speed limit with your windows down, I mean, there are much worse things that you could play at a loud volume. Yeah. But yeah, it was a little bit of a difficult listen to get all the way through at some points, but there were some songs that ended up being standouts for me, and some moments where I was like, I just wish they kind of did that more. Like there was like this section here, like this is when they're at their best. And I can tell you that I checked out like the first track of their third album, and that song is just pure black metal, man. And that third album, if you like the black metal elements of Kvelertak on this record, listen to their third record, because that one was unlike all the first two, which were God City, Kurt Ballou, Baroness cover, kind of like there's like a train here for these, sort of metal, but not bands that do these kinds of things, like Baroness. And, but when they got to their third record, they recorded it in Norway. It sounds dirtier. It sounds more demo. And even the cover looks like dark and dense. So I think they really kind of nailed it on their third record. Sadly, that's when the guitar part, when the vocalist left, was after that record. But here, I think they were still more like, it's, I'm not saying it is a gimmick, but to me, it feels like one listening to it. You know what I mean? Like rock band with black metal vocalists. So that was my first impression.
I'm pretty in league with Jim on this one. I struggled. If I didn't have to listen to this album, I wouldn't have. Every time I put it on hit play, I get about halfway through, I'm like, I'm turning it off. And then I got but down to time where it was time to be having to pay more attention. Like, shit, I got to listen to it. I powered through, and there's some good songs on here for sure. But I hear if James Hetfield was singing on some of this stuff, it would sound like something off a Load Reload, some of that style of rock mixed in with a little bit of punk. I'm thinking maybe then I hear like some Fu Manchu, and then I hear like a little Allman Brothers, and then I hear, now Diabolical era Satyricon, but not as good. I'm just like, I don't know. And it sounds like two bands at a party. One's a rock band, one's a black, an Allman Brothers, or one likes some black metal and rock, and one likes Allman Brothers, and they're fighting over the stereo. That's what this thing feels like to me. I spent a lot of time this week trying to figure out what this band even is or isn't. And I really found myself enjoying their instrument. I'm not going to sit here and say the band's bad, because they're not. They're a good band, good instrumentation, really solid songwriting. The songwriting on here is good. About 3/4 of the way through the album, they definitely have a formula that they rely on. It's a good formula. It works really well. Some tracks stand out more than others, but good, but first impression was, I like bands like Fu Manchu. I like Nebula. I like Atomic Bitchwax. There was a time where I was, well, yeah, he's wearing a shirt. There was a time I was really into that stuff and really adhering to that. Orange Goblin, but it was it's kind of like the Converge era of my listening. It's a very short period of time and it's gone. And I putting that stuff on now, I just don't care to listen to it. I don't know. It's weird. And again, this is a band with a lot of fusion going on, and it just is not checking all the boxes for me. Anyway, Logan.
Man, I gotta tell you, I feel like the last couple picks that I've done with like the Cult of Luna and the Wake, I've been trying to find the line, and I think I found it. So
yeah, this
I'll go back. I'll go back to where I started now. Now that I know where to.
Honestly, this is one of those. This is one of those things you could put out to pasture with Elder and Witch Hazel. It's not. It's got elements of metal, but they're real. As the album goes, it's few and far between. The rock is more authentic than the metal side, for sure. Anyway, go ahead.
That's funny. That's kind of a little bit of where I wanted to take tonight and just see what you guys thought and where you weighed in. And I feel like I already have my answer, which is pretty efficient. 21 minutes in, so we'll make it a full. We'll make it a full episode, though. Yeah, as far as somewhat metal cred, the vocalist Helvik, he was on the first 5 or 4 Jevel albums, Marty.
See, it would have been nice if they were on Metal Archives, because it would have been nice to have some of that information. Because, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, Erland Helvik. Yeah, and we will get to that question as well. But for me, yeah, when I heard this, which was pretty early on in my metal career, probably even before I got into black metal, maybe that's another reason why, I hold this album and this band kind of in high regard and, pretty close to the chest. I was kind of blown away by just the hodgepodge of influences and everything that they brought to the table. They didn't really want to be in any one genre or style. They wanted to just be Kvelertak, in my opinion. That's what I heard, was just a band really just going out to make their own, name for themselves in a career. And I mean, I guess it is kind of gimmicky because the whole, from the word jump, they were marketing themselves as black and roll. They're like, we are a black and roll band, and that was their way of kind of differentiating themselves. I think there's a lot more here than black and roll. I think black and roll really only adds up to less than 50% of the elements. And yeah, a lot of the elements here are not necessarily metal. There is this bluesy 70s rock that's here. Definitely a stoner or a late 2000s sludge vibe. And I don't know, to me, it's just all adds up to being something unique and just perfectly of the season for early summer. Just it feels warm, it feels inviting. It's just puts a smile on my face every time I hear it. And the band is just an interesting thing for me because they don't necessarily fit in, and they were almost like a stuck out like a sore thumb when they came out, or they did fit in with the other Baroness bands, but I feel like they were just different enough not to be there. And then they kind of have gone off and done their own thing, sticking more to touring Norway and stuff than trying to break into the American scene, which is where they started. So this is a favorite album of mine, and I'm definitely interested to hear more about your thoughts, and I guess whoever else wants to weigh in the chat. So,
right on.
But I do have my question over here, which does go about the whole metal archives and stuff, and really just the websites and databases that we use as metalheads in general. So being a metalhead in the modern era has many perks. One of them being having access to musical databases that are great resources for finding and learning about music that we love. Is there anything lost from the perspective of a fan with the use of these sites, such as the monolithic metal archives? Do you think they can control too much of the metal narrative? And finally, should Kvelertak be listed on the Metal Archives?
Kellen.
So first part to the question, maybe. I know like Metal Archives, there's plenty of debate on there. I know bands the people have gone back and forth in terms of who should be included and why they aren't included on Metal Archives. I see like contention all the time, for example, with grindcore, as to who should be included and who shouldn't, just because of their relationship to punk, etc. So whether they're included on the website or not, like we did the Today is the Day stream. I don't think they're on Metal Archives.
I don't know. I could check. Probably not.
Yeah, they are not.
The Joshua wasn't forever, but now they finally are.
Yeah.
But
so it's as to whether they conclude the narrative. Because there is consistent sort of protest from fans and conversation, at least that makes me believe that there's probably more information that we sort of make up as to who should be included and who isn't, others by comparison to a website like that, that are more important to what makes up heavy metal by comparison to just listing it on a website. So I'm not too concerned, I guess, that a forum or a website can single-handedly dictate what we as sort of assume as culture, right? So beyond that, though, should this band Kvelertak be included? I don't hear this as the things that like make this for me not a metal band is their major influences, I think, sit on like so far on the outside of what the heart of metal is, meaning outside of the screaming vocals here. I think there's kind of this metal like roll punk thing going on sonically, musically. That's like their style. And then they jump all the way over. They just miss the whole middle ground of metal and move to like stoner rock. It's like they're on this whole middle ground that they could potentially be a bit more of a black metal band or a bit more of a metal band in general. But for me, they just are on two opposing sides of things, and that's where they sort of merge and miss being a heavy metal band. So I don't listen to them as heavy metal band, and for sure, I think but then not being included on the heavy metal archives wouldn't sort of preclude them from potentially, if you, Logan, think they need to be on there, I wouldn't take issue with that.
I'll go next. Make Jim go second all the time here. I don't know. It's funny because I was sitting here looking and I just looked up Elders on there, and that which one did we cover? We covered Dead Roots.
If Elders on there.
Yeah, and that to me wasn't a metal record either. Kellen disagreed with me, but I don't know. It's just it would have been. I don't know that a site like Metal Archives dictates the scene. They just, or make people go one way or the other regarding the scene. But I find their information really invaluable, especially doing the site. It's great to have. I like it especially for dates and lineup, for seeing who was on the albums, all that stuff, and for so you don't sound too stupider than I already sound. It's nice to have that there. And like flying a bit blind tonight, looking up, trying to find information online. I'm like, God damn it sucks they're not on Metal Archives. It proves I use it too much, perhaps. But I don't know. I don't think they dictate the scene too much. I understand the band, the guys that do the Metal Archives. They have their prejudices when it comes to what they cover and carry. Yet they got like Thin Lizzy's on there, if I remember right. I mean, there's just certain bands that they think they're just fans of. We're putting them on, I don't care, but yet they're gatekeepers in other ways too. So it's part of the thing you get into, but it's such a humongously large resource. It's very infrequently that I've turned to it and been come up empty. It's weird. It was there is a split they did with Gohira, this Kvelertak, that's on there under Gohira, but it's not, there's no Kvelertak page. So I don't know. To answer your question, should they be on there? I don't know. It's tough for me to answer this. It's 95% non-metal. And the guy's vocals, they sound very hardcore to me. His screaming style is more leaning in the hardcore screaming style than the black metal style. I don't know. I don't know if you guys felt that. It didn't have the grit and the, vocal cord destruction that orthodox black metal does. But I don't know. Jim, what are your thoughts?
Well, vocally, like I think that his cadence is hardcore, but the sound, and maybe this has a lot to do with him singing Norwegian, it sounds black metal to me, sound wise. You know what I mean? But maybe if he was singing in English with that hardcore cadence, maybe it would sound just hardcore all the way. But that's what to me gives it like the black metal vibe. But yeah, speaking of Metal Archives, it's a great question, Logan. Yeah, I certainly depended upon it. It is, I use it so much all the time, every day. I mean, if you look at the browser on my phone, I have like 6 tabs open with different bands on, and that's kind of my norm. Like I've always got the old Encyclopedia Metallum open. And in my, as I've talked about before, I was a late bloomer to black metal. I did not get it in the 90s. It was like, I don't like the sound. I thought it was like, this is all just attention getting, we're criminal, whatever. But when it finally clicked with me in the 2000s, I had to go back, and I didn't know anyone to listen to black metal. I had no black metal friends. And out of my whole crew, I was like the guy that listened to the heaviest stuff, I was always turning my friends on to heavier stuff, death metal in particular. But so it was, Metal Archives was a huge help for me to discover, like, oh, I like this guy. Oh, well, he played with this band, or like, oh, well, this band sounds like that guy, so I should check them out. And so I learned so much just through that. And then when I met Marty, obviously my education flew out the window. And then as Marty was introducing me to bands, I would look up stuff. And so to me, it's been an invaluable resource in my metal journey. And, you could say that, with the sort of gatekeeping that they do, with the moderators do in terms of like who they let in, who they don't let in, that there could be some control there. But I think that for the most part, for, fans of the show, and, us, the hosts that are on it, I think in large part, I don't say we always agree, certainly me and Marty would always get annoyed when the Chachman would be on and then the Chachman would be off because they were a Bindman band. We'd be like, what the hell? You know what I mean? Like, leave these guys on here. We don't agree with them all the time, and they do make mistakes and they leave stuff out and all that. But and sometimes you can use your general guideline on the review percentages, but always make your own choices because some of them are completely wrong, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I think as long as you take into consideration that these guys are humans too, they're doing the best they can, and you can influence their decision making by, if you really care that much, becoming a moderator yourself, posting your own review to like balance out like a crappy percentage that's undeserved or whatever in your opinion. I think because there's that open avenue to speak your voice through Metal Archives by getting more involved in that community. I think it's okay that they have such a huge presence, because it isn't, it may seem like gatekeeping at first, but if you're willing to like lean in to what they're doing, you can have an impact, as a, partaker, in the services that they deliver on metal information. So I think by and large, Metal Archives is a great resource. Not to say there aren't other resources out there. I've learned through the Discord chat here, you guys have had, great black metal resources that have, that put forth like, hey, newer releases in a better way, easier to find, things like that. So I'm glad that there are other, sites out there that, in different ways sort of compete, if you want to use that word. But I kind of respect and glad they're there as a definitive resource, so yeah, and we go back to Kvelertak, where do they stand? There are metal riffs on here occasionally. There are little bits of, there's like a couple times where they actually do some blast beating. They have, Take as a guest vocalist on the first song, Hester, however you pronounce his name. So it's there, right? And like I mentioned earlier, on their third album, they lean more into. I haven't heard the second one, but because I just dismissed that one because it was same Baroness cover recorded with Kurt Ballou again. But the third one, I say, oh wait, very somber, album cover, recorded in Norway. When I heard the production, it doesn't sound like their other albums at all. It definitely sounds more underground in production. Like everything about that one sounded better to me. So I know that it's there, right? But I think by and large the music still leans more rock and roll, in large part. So maybe even saying like black metal meets Foo Fighters, black metal meets GNR is too much, but I would definitely say at least black metal meets Velvet Revolver. If you're familiar with that album, there's a lot of open chord kind of rock on that, that has a little bit of a Hanoi Rocks kind of a vibe there, New York Dolls or something. I think that's here, and more so than the metal, right? So I think it's probably okay that they're not on there, but at the same time, I mean, there's a lot of things like I don't really understand why they're on there, and things that I don't understand why they're excluded. So what I'm getting at is if they were on Metal Archives, I wouldn't have a problem with it, right? I think it's too close to call for me personally to like have been offended either way. But I don't think I'm surprised or like upset that they're not. So that's my take on that.
All right, Logan, your thoughts?
All right. Well, first, I absolutely love Metal Archives and kind of what it is for metal.
Yeah.
Honestly, what other genre of music has something like this? I mean, it's an amazing tool, and it's kind of tough to live without. So, and really, this question was not meant to be like a, what's wrong with Metal Archives and why isn't Kvelertak on it? I wanted to know your thoughts about the way that these websites and stuff can potentially shape opinions and shape, new people getting into metal. For me, like I actually didn't really get into using Metal Archives like religiously until 5-10 years ago. So initially I had this website called Sputnik Music. I don't know if anyone's heard of that one. It's just like a full-on, just basically user-led rating website. And it was great. It was really, it wasn't just metal. It was everything. So I was able to go in there with my love of like grunge and hard rock and, maybe a little new metal, as a 16-year-old, and slowly just find all these other bands that kept pushing me along the journey, and, I loved it. And it was just an eye-opening experience from every, new similar artist that I would click on. And it was just a great resource for me. And looking back on it, value that website. I still use it quite a lot as well. But there's a little caveat in my mind. When I look at like the biggest albums in the metal world for that website originally, they're also my favorite albums. Like I inherently took what the users, I mean, it's not like it's just user generated reviews and stuff.
The Sputnik thing?
Yeah, the Sputnik thing. So it's my opinions are potentially different because I used that website for so long. Like, for example, their take on Carcass, Heartwork is the biggest and best album. That was the website's take. And what is my favorite Carcass album? Heartwork. Their take on Death, the later era, Symbolic and Sound of Perseverance were very highly lauded on that website. Those are my favorite Death albums. And I can compare a lot of opinions that I have to basically stuff that I got from there. So I'm wondering if, people have experienced that from some of these websites where it changes up. I mean, like, honestly, I didn't think people could hate Heartwork until I ran into Heavy Metallurgy, and Marty's all like, "It's too clean," and I threw it in the trash, and
I didn't throw in the
like, I
trash.
was like, whoa!
I don't hate Heartwork, but it's not Carcass.
Yes. That. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you like Surgical Steel. That doesn't make any sense.
It's better than Heartwork.
See,
It is not better than Heartwork, man. It's Heartwork light. It's not nowhere near as good. It has the same kind of production. The cover even looks the same, but the songs aren't as good.
Symphonies, Necroticism, and then Heartwork. I mean, one of these doesn't look like the other.
That's
See?
true. That's true. But if you're putting that up against, you can't say Surgical Steel, yeah, and Heartwork. No, I'm sorry.
I can put on Heartwork and sing along with the whole thing. I know the album inside out. I think it's a great record, but it's just not. That should not be called Carcass. It sounds like a Sweet Death band to me. Anyway, it's
see,
cool. You guys are wrong. That's fine. It's good.
I know the whole website was wrong a lot of the times, I'm sure, because I mean the reason is there are a bunch of people my age or maybe a little bit older coming into metal around like the late 90s 2000s, and hearing the At the Gates core just be everywhere, and they're like, oh, this Carcass thing was so influential to melodic death metal and stuff. It's far exceeds everything. So I guess what I'm saying is I've recently, with the whole Heavy Metallurgy thing, it's been so refreshing being a part of this, channel where I get to hear opinions like the one Marty just expressed right there, and basically shatter this glass ceiling that I had built for myself in my, teenage, early 20s, years. And
the house that Wrong Opinions built, that's fine.
Yep. It's still there. It's not shattered yet.
It's got some
I
pressure
brought this album to the club, so it's still built. The foundation is strong, you see.
Oh, it's all good.
But yeah, no, it's been great being a part of the the YouTuberverse and hearing people like Dennis, Analog Archives, hates leprosy, and these are like death's leprosy opinions I would never thought I would hear, and it's refreshing to have so many different takes on these albums that aren't all just the same glossed over if it's the later, more progressive 90s era, it's the best stuff kind of opinions that I kind of grew up with having as a metalhead. And so I do think just being able to step out of like a certain website from time to time is important, and just see what else is going on, what other people's opinions are. And I value it highly. And should Kvelertak be on Metal Archives? Which Hazel is on Metal Archives? If they make the cut, come on.
Well, Thin Lizzy's on there, then Witch Hazel should be on there. Yeah. But I don't know.
Well,
you're splitting hairs. It's getting to the point where you're splitting hairs.
I mean, honestly, I'm with all you guys. I could take it or leave it. The only issue was that for preparation for tonight, I wasn't able to use it, and I had to do all my research the old-fashioned way with other Google searches.
I didn't like it.
Yeah, I know. It wasn't fun, but to me, the vocals do hit that black metal register, if a little bit more on the hardcore side. But a lot of black metal bands that are have been exploring more hardcore style vocals recently. The singer Helvik, he was in Jevel, as I pointed out earlier. I don't know if I'm saying that band right, but for like 4 or 5 albums. And then he has a solo band called Helvik, which is very Viking metal-esque, like traditional, pagan Viking metal. Very good stuff if you're a fan of Bathory, maybe mixed with some of the stuff that's going on in Kvelertak. I'd recommend checking it out. So, and Take is on this album too. Damn.
I don't know.
Oh well, I tried.
I don't know if it's right or not. I've just heard other Norwegians say it, and it sounds like they say Tolka.
It sounds right, but there you go. That's my take.
All right. Well, let's discuss musicality and composition of Kvelertak. Cullen.
So the opener, I think, was promising. So Ulvetted, that comes around, and there's a moment in that song where, like around 2 minutes or so, there's like a big sort of tom roll, and we get a little bit of like a black metal kind of guitar tone, like a riffing style. And I thought that was going to be indication of what the entirety of this record had in store. Like we got sort of the upbeat, I don't know. For me, there's something just very positive. Like I don't know if you want to call it Guns N' Roses, but that rock thing that's going on here is just upbeat. So if you, in terms of the summer accomplished, right? If that was the goal, I get it. But I thought, okay, we got a little bit of like metal going on here, this build up. And what I kind of realized is that over the next few songs, specifically, this formula starts to set in where, Jim mentioned this sort of open chord, which is the first thing I heard was, okay, that's got to be what we're thinking with the punk influence. And I get it, but the riffing, it doesn't have like, there's enough, we'll get into production later, but there's like a certain kind of, I don't know, ease to this record. It doesn't have like I don't feel angry or tense or like that sort of malice you can feel with a punk record isn't on this. To me, it completely captures this sort of, to me, it's like a lighter weight stoner thing. It's that kind of like upbeat vibe. And they do these little kind of breaks where you get like a short little guitar solo, and it feels like a blues lick before they drop into sort of a rock riff. And that is like, for me, that's their formula. That is like what I hear overarching on this record. And that is just an interesting turn. So on one hand, I completely got like why this record spoke to you, Logan. Like this is 100% your wheelhouse. I get it. And it also comes around, this is 2011, I want to say. Is that the correct date in terms of when it's released?
2010, but
2010. Yeah.
With the album artwork, I think it, for my mind, it sort of creeps into this world where like post metal is kind of developing more and more of a sound. I just think there's a greater sort of mixture of genres happening here, and that sort of open chord rock stuff to this upbeat. It's not quite stoner or sludge, right? But it's in the same way that Torch has like a rock sound to them. That's what I hear on this record. That's like the songwriting style. There's a cool, like, I want to say there's a few moments. So Sultans of Satan, once again, we get another around 2-minute mark in that. There's like a clean little guitar break, and we get into an actual kind of almost stoner moment where it gets heavier, slower. So there's sort of cleaner distinction at points in this record. I do want to say, like, there's an interesting, I think it's Link Torn. I apologize for all the pronunciation here. I'm sure people in the chat will light us on fire for our horrible Norwegian. But that song opens with a faster drum part, and kind of this descending sort of melody. And I thought it was going to be an interesting moment where they got somewhere darker. And sure enough, like after a minute or so, it's like we get another sort of guitar break. The song almost sort of empties out, and they come back in and like, just joking, we're having a good time over here. And I think one of the problems I had with this record overall is like, I wanted there to be, great. Like, I think they're trying to make a sincere record. This isn't like a municipal waste of Norway, right? Like,
no, yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, this isn't just having a good time. Well, thank you, Tim, with the corn. Yes. But it's just, for me, I thought there was like emotionally also sort of a single note to this record. It didn't take me places in terms of like the experience. It was just kind of a positive, upbeat sort of vibe, and it rolled through. And the way this record sort of evolves in terms of the track listing, the back end of it, I think it's more interesting in terms of the song composition, but it also feels like the songs get longer as well. So it became, on the back end of this record, listening to it for the full way through, a little bit more challenging to keep engaged with the record, because I kind of knew what they were going for. I knew a little bit what to expect. But by the time we get to track sort of 8, 9, 10, 11 on the record, I kind of was like, okay, I know what this is about. So I really had to like revisit the back end of the record because I thought the more interesting songs were there, but I kind of knew the formula 20 minutes into what this record was doing. So,
All right, Logan.
Yeah, I mean, I think the sound of this record is completely unique. I think to when it was released, and I don't feel like it's been replicated, truthfully. And I mean, some will argue it doesn't need to be, but when kind of diving into maybe how Kvelertak got here with this sound, I went on a hunch. There's this band from Norway that I've never really listened to, but checked out this week called Turbo Negro. I don't know if you guys have checked out that band.
Yeah. Kind of similar.
This is Turbo Negro to me. This is like them taking that sound, just sprinkling some black metal, black and roll, whatever elements on it. Maybe making certain compositions a bit more complex and bluesy, and they're adding in that stoner sludge vibe of the time, but they're just bringing like this Norwegian rock sound back. And I think that's the heart and soul of this album. It is like a Norwegian rock album. So, there we go. Not on the Metal Archives. It's got all the swagger of a rock and roll band to me, just through the way the vocals come in, the way the guitar work is played out, the way the songs even just speed across. But the thing about this rock and roll album, though, is it's got actual balls, man. Like, it's got, like, to me, a certain intensity and desire just to rock out that I like rock and roll, and I love a lot of the albums of like the 70s and the 80s and stuff, and in the 2000s, God, there's not much. It's kind of shit. And this was just such a refreshing and exciting take on a rock and roll sound for me. And like I love the influence of just kind of everything in the kitchen sink. I mean, there are black metal riffs on here. There are blast beats on here. There are
3, maybe.
No. There's at least 5.
Okay.
There's at least 3 songs, 5 different blast beat sections, maybe. There are metal moments on here. There are a lot of rock riffs, blues riffs, just, like if you're looking for a metal record, I necessarily would not point you in this direction. I would definitely, steer you to a metal album, I guess. But if you're looking for something that just rocks and it's fun and you just enjoy listening to it and it flies by, you're enjoying every second of, the riffs, the swagger, the feel of it. I don't know, I love this album, and I would definitely choose this. 3 guitarists here. I don't know if you
unnecessary
could tell. I like just the trade-off, man. I think there was a lot of like moments where having a third guitar made it, it's even better. Like the way that they would change, tuning or melody, or you get this one moment, then would go right into a blues riff and then into like a more stoner sludge riff. And I was a complete fan of that approach. I like the drumming on here. As I said, the vocal performance by Helvik, I think is great. I think it's unique. It's a good balance between, to me, the typical black metal vocals and something a bit more hard rock. And he says, he has moments where he goes like, "Oh," or "all right," just literally hard rock, call outs. And I just love it. And then I also love the fact that they chose to stick with Nordic lyrics. It's all in Norwegian. And I think that adds a lot to the authenticity of this album. I think it makes it more, it makes it feel more metal. I mean, Jim, you mentioned that it helps with his vocal performance feeling more metal just because it's in Norwegian. I don't think it would hit the same if it was English and I could understand what the hell they were talking about. I just like the fact that it's, kind of out there and feels a little bit more outlandish and just interesting to me. This is still an interesting album after all these years, and the 11 tracks fly by. I love how the track listing is structured. I'll talk more about that later, but just there's a lot of astounding skill, I think, musically too. Like everyone here is very competent on their instruments, and they know exactly what they want to make with this, Norwegian rock record. There, I'll drop the metal act.
All right, Jim.
Yeah, man. It's I think they kind of try to beat the rock and roll over our heads. Like the first song, it starts out great, blast beats, a black metal riff, and then the bridge comes, and I wrote, it sounds like fucking Foo Fighters. The bridge of the chorus just like sounds like Foo Fighters to me. Then it gets a little bit more black metal again at 150, which is awesome. And then there's a Chuck Berry solo comes in. I'm like, what is happening here? I'm just like, it's just, it was just, it just felt like kind of a mess for me, man. But, I guess I do what you want. It's it's a free musical world out there. And that one guitar player I read, like he never used a pick or whatever. And I guess he's the one doing all the slappy blues licks or whatever. I'm like, dude, use a pick. Come on, man. This isn't Dire Straits here, man. Come on. It's just weird to me. But, and then the second song, I was like, okay, all right, let's see what happens here. And there's tambourine and rockabilly piano. I'm like,
it's just like they use
There's
that
a
like
cowbell in there.
ding,
There's a
ding,
cowbell.
ding, ding, ding,
like-
ding. Yeah.
and then I'm like, okay, I'm hanging in here, and then hand clapping 2 minutes in, I'm like, no, what? Just no, man.
Sometimes it's fun to have fun, I guess.
Yeah. Well, you know what? If I'm listening to pop music, I'm listening to pop music. But when I'm listening to something that I think is going to be metal or kind of posits itself as being metal, I don't want to hear hand clapping. I just don't want to hear it. Sorry, that's just not me, man. But there are other like weird missteps on here, like on Sultans of Satan. What is up with the Jimi Hendrix riff, man? Like what? Like that is just Purple Haze all day. Like what is happening there? I mean, like not even like any attempt to like make it sound any different at all. It's like that what was that Candlebox song where at the end of it they go I was the same thing. I was like, why is this song on the radio? It's just a Jimi Hendrix song. I'm just like, what why do people think they can steal Purple Haze like so blatantly? And like, I mean, come on, man. It's not, at least try a deep cut Jimi Hendrix riff, but I mean that it's just not impressive to me, man. And even, like I'll bring out, Logan, you mentioned like when he says, all right, Satyricon did that like, several years earlier and better, right? On Fueled by Hatred. It's I'm just like, I think there's a lot of Satyricon love on here. And I definitely, if you listen to Velvet, I'm telling you, man, if you listen to Velvet Revolver's Contraband record, and then you listen to this, you're going to hear a lot of the same riffs. There's a lot of that. The guitar player in that band used to play with Wasted Youth, and so they had a little bit of that punk meets rock, not punk rock, but punk meets rock style. And you're going to hear like a lot of the same kind of guitar riffs on both of these records. Now, I like Velvet Revolver's Contraband record because I like Old Guns N' Roses. I like first album, Stone Temple, and that was a rock band, right? I went into that saying this is a rock band, right? So I was good with that. But when a band is sort of straddling that line, I would prefer them to lean more into metal than more into rock. If you're doing rock with like a tiny little bit of extreme metal influences, it just feels weird to me, man. Again, free country, free world, do what you want to do. I'm glad somebody's taking chances, and there's nothing wrong with people doing that. I'm not poo-pooing experimentation, but it just makes it super difficult for me to connect with it. You know what I mean? If it's not like a great rock record or a great metal record, it's just somewhere in between, and then I'm just kind of flailing about as a listener. So you know, and there are some good moments though. I think Fossegrim is great. The third track, I love how he starts out Fossegrim, like a really aggressive vocal, like that's how the song enters. And it's a cool down picked riff, like you hear behind the solo. There's a brief mid tempo black metal riff about midway through the song. So it just has some good intensity there. So that's a highlight for me. And you know, there's another. I was going to point out something. There's some good blasting drums on. Man, I'm not going to try to pronounce this one, but track 6. I'm just going to say that. There's some good drum work on track 6. You know, I think the drummer, you know, yeah, he's not a metal drummer. There's no double bass on here, right? But he's very, very solid. Like when he's playing, you know, the blast beats, he's solid as blast. When he's playing the rock, he's playing the rock. But he's hitting those kind of toms, and he's doing his thing. He's got some good cymbal work and stuff like that. He's obviously one of those guys that has like a 3-piece kit or whatever, 4-piece kit, but he knows how to play it. He's very like, you know, like clockwork in his approach. He's a great timekeeper. So yeah, man, you know, I think that there's, you know, a lot to like here. If you're just looking, if you are a person that's not into metal, right, and you're looking for something heavier, this is a good record. You know, this would be a great record for a rock fan to listen to that's not into metal, right? And be the heaviest thing in their collection. You know what I mean? But for a metal fan listening to this, it's like I want you to lean in either way. Either just go ahead and lean in and just be rock, or lean in and just be metal. But with like the tiny little bits and pieces of it, it just feels kind of forced to me. Like it just doesn't feel as it just doesn't feel as genuine as it should. But you know, whether that's true or not, you know, on a personal level with these guys, I don't know. I don't know anything about them, but that's just the vibe I get from literally the songwriting, from literally the music. So yeah, that's what I got to say about that.
I agree with a lot of what's being said here. But I will say, you know, repeated listens to this thing, I got past my little hangups with, you know, the rock, which I don't mind a rock record. It can be a rock record. It's fine. And I do like Jim's point that, you know, if you're not much into metal, this could be the album for you. It could be the heaviest CD on your shelf. That's great. But once I get past all of the what is it, what isn't it, why do I have a hard time focusing on this, I started listening to the music, and I think the album from start to finish flows really well. We're going to discuss the musicality and composition. I think they are really good at building up and taking away within a song. It always kind of goes back to the same, you know, the punky down picking. It's got kind of a drone to it, you know, Turbo Negro, perfect combination. The only thing I have by that band is Scandinavian Leather, and I always liked it. It sits on my shelf, rarely gets played, but when I listened to it a bit when I got it, and said, okay, I think I know what this band can offer, and I don't need to really pursue it because it's not really my wheelhouse. But, you know, this band is very good at what they do, although the solos, they're more like licks, which I kind of respect. You know, the shredding solos on here, over the top stuff would have been maybe a bit strange, would have been a counteracting their punk aesthetic a little bit, but they're interesting licks. They're very bluesy, like Kellen mentioned, very bluesy licks. It's a nice touch. They do it a bit, and it kind of happens at the same point in the song here and there. But having said all that, the musicality is really well done. Their songwriting, especially on the track, where is it? Yeah, Licktorn. That song is really good. They really do a great job at building that track, and they're doing some things on it a bit differently than the rest of the album, and it kind of, but yet they're bringing everything into the fold that they are on the album. But when I listen to the song, it makes it like maybe this is their authentic sound. It's their first indication of their own sound in there, which is cool. And I would have liked a bit more of that, which we do get on the second half of the album. The first half is just kind of, you know, fun punky rock. And, there's a freedom to some of this shit, which is kind of refreshing. And the whole summertime, there's a freedom, like, we're gonna drop a blast beat here for no apparent reason. There's been no blast beat in this song anywhere. And here it is. Boom, here's a blast beat. Like, oh, okay. And then they're out of it and they don't return to it. It's like, was that in Licktorn? It might have been. I don't remember which song it was in, but my notes on this are pretty scattered. But yeah, songwriting good, sound interesting. Discuss the production. I'm trying not to be mean because I don't foresee myself listening to this again when it's done. I'm just going to put that out here, and it's not because it sucks. I've listened to it probably 10 times, and there's some enjoyment on here. It's just not a thing, not a lane I'm in. Just not a lane. Production. What were you going to say, Kellen?
Oh yeah, I was just going to say your conclusion there. I like how concise. You just took a line. In summary, yes.
Yeah.
Production. So Kurt Ballou does the production here, and he has a sound.
Who is this? It's someone from Baroness, I'm assuming.
No, it's the Converge guitarist.
Oh, okay. Yeah, makes sense.
But I can say, I think that's correct. But I believe is a member of, or previous member. Are they still an active band? I don't know. But to us, apologies to all the Converge fans out there. But he has a very distinct sound, which is everything is pushed way to the front. It's big, loud, kind of not just clear, but like crystal clear. And I don't mean to say, like, I think there's a good measure of this sounding like, not necessarily, I don't want to say like whatever, plasticky. I don't get that kind of whatever. It's not an album that's shoved into an autoclave where there's no life to it. It sounds like it's right up in front and loud. I always think his mix though lacks like dimension or space, because everything's just right up in front and center. So there's not like the vocalist, there's plenty of clarity throughout the entire band. I can hear the vocalist, guitars, bassist, drums. I have no complaints in terms of the mixing of it. The only thing I have an issue with his production historically is everything just feels like it's right up, like you're sitting right at the front of the stage. So you don't have like any, like someone who's been in a band forever. Yeah. It's in a lot of production. And that's always one of the things that I feel is a bit like polarizing about his choices in how he wants to produce a record. It just, to me, there's not enough sort of breathing room for this to feel like a different kind of record. It's going to be sort of one note, one dimensional. So I don't necessarily, it's not a major complaint necessarily about how he's chosen to voice this record. But it is sort of single or sort of one note in terms of where its strengths are for me.
All right, Logan.
Yeah, another reason why this album is right up my alley, and potentially, not up others, is definitely the combination of the production of Kurt Ballou and just the John Baisley cover art. Like getting into metal back in 2010, 2012, I worshipped at the shrine for both of these guys. They were everywhere. They were the flavor of the week. It was, open season for the cover artwork by John, and then the production by, Kurt. Every single artist basically ended up having it. And then it became, just too much everywhere, too much of a good thing. It gets overused, and then people see it kind of as a fad. And I felt like when I found this album and when I was first getting into metal, it wasn't quite there yet. And that was like refreshing and cool. And I loved the production on this. And I still am a huge fan of Baisley as a cover artist too. And that's probably one of my favorite album covers right there. To finally talk about the production, I mean, Kellen, you basically nailed it. It's like a open stage, basically, that you're right in front of. Everything's right there. it feels warm, it feels vibrant, it's full of life and energy. To me, I think it fits this record. It fits what it wants to do. It does kind of age the album, if you will. Like, it does plant it in, this came out, late 2000s, early 2010s. They're trying to break into the American sludge scene, kind of. I don't know, that's some of the interesting choices on this album, and really with the way Kvelertak was marketed is in America, and I guess in Norway too, they were really marketed as a band in like the sludge scene. That's who they would tour with. That's who, the stickers would say, if you like Kailasa, if you like Baroness, check out Kvelertak. And I think the fact that they got paired with them so often meant that, they had the same life expectancy as that scene. So when that scene kind of went away with the revival of death metal in like, the early to mid 2010s, so did Kvelertak, I think. And, their chance at breaking big in America, because they definitely had a chance at it. So I guess really that's my one point on the production is now it's, it does feel like of a time and place, but this is a nostalgic record for me of that time and place. And, I love it all the more for it. Every instrument sounds great. The, vocals sit perfectly in it. I'm there all the way for it.
Jim? Muted.
Yeah, I feel like it's it's a dry kind of production, which serves the music. It's rock, the vocals and guitars are definitely prominent here. Again, serving the rock vibe. The bass is pretty buried here. And maybe I'd have to go back and listen to it again, but I just really didn't ever like feel like it was ever, up there prominent where I could really hear it. Again, that's not so uncommon with something that's more like a radio friendly kind of a style of sound for a band. So in this particular genre, I don't think that's a deal breaker, but I personally, as you guys know, for me, I'm always looking to hear more bass. So I would have appreciated that being up higher than the mix. Maybe pull the vocals down some and use some of that space that you gained from that, to allow the bass to be a little more flourishing. There's a lot of good, tom sound on this. The toms sound really good and really strong whenever he's hitting those. And they're loud enough. And I think the snare is fine, but the kicks could have been a little up there too. So that's kind of like a nitpick. I think the drums overall have a good, nice kind of organic sound overall, and they definitely don't sound processed or anything like that to me. They do sound super clean and super tight, but I that's one thing I would change is just like having the bass a little bit louder and the vocals pulled back. Other than that, not much to say about this production for me. I think that for this style, which again, I'm just going to call rock for lack of a better word. It just works. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. I can't really pick it apart. Kurt Ballou, he's obviously been a producer of many, many records at his God Cities. I think he calls them God City Studios. And I definitely like the way Converge sounds. You know what I mean? So he, I know the guy knows what he's doing. And but yeah, so nothing to really complain about production wise here, except just a little more bass. And I think it could have, gave this album a little bit more, push, overall. So.
Yeah, little to contribute to this other than it. I agree with the dry sound, and it feels like the music is kind of plunked. There isn't a lot of movement as far as panning goes. Like when they kick on the effects, there's a couple when they lean into the stoner rock a little bit, they kick on the effects. So there's like type stuff going on. You listen to like a Fu Manchu or a Nebula record, that stuff moves around in the stereo field. They do shit with that effect to really sell the psychedelic atmosphere. Here it's just kind of plunk in the center. It doesn't really do much to expand the stereo field much, but again, that is super nitpicky. I think it's a good sounding record. Nothing, when I listened to it, I wasn't thinking, oh, I wish it would be this or that. Everything could be heard. It felt decent. Yeah. It suits the style of music, I think, pretty well. Favorite, least favorite songs? Kellen.
Jump back into it. So let's go. I mean, I'm so used to jumping over to Metal Archives and having my album all ready to go here.
Now,
Stupid. So yeah, I really liked the opener, Ulvetted. I think that actually started this record off just the way I think it was intended, in terms of like maybe what I want from it, I guess is what I was going to say there. I'm 100%. I don't know. I'm with Jim here. The track number 6, Joy Henar. There we go.
God, are you Norwegian? Roger?
Yes. We'll go with that. But I also think that's one of those songs that like encapsulates everything that's going on this record. And then I'll kind of reiterate I really like the early development before we get into sort of like the punk and rock side of track number 9, Licktorn. The early portion of that sort of starts off with like a blast beat drum, and then there's like a descending sort of scale there that the first sort of minute during the course of that song that I really enjoyed, I think stands out. So those are my 3 favorites. Like I don't think there's really any egregious airs here on this record. If my criticism with the over the record overall though is it just feels like a little bit too of like the same sort of formula for me. And because I don't necessarily love the formula, I think that's kind of wore on me in terms of the listen, but there's not like one glaring like, oh my God, what is happening here? So I think if you dig what this band is doing, there's nothing you're going to be upset with. If the formula itself, in terms of their songwriting style, doesn't speak to you, then it's probably going to be a difficult 50 minutes to sit through.
Yep. Logan.
Well,
that was 50 minutes, really? Okay.
Did it feel shorter? Maybe you liked it.
I would listen to it in stages sometimes.
Oh, okay. That's why.
Yeah.
Well, I loved every second of the 50 minutes. Honestly, to me, every song is great. There's not a bad song on here. I think they all focus on capturing, basically what I mentioned in the musicality and composition, this, Norwegian rock and roll with black and roll and, little stoner vibes in there. They just all go back and forth between hitting the different high points of that sound. And to me, I like just how the album is structured. It's kind of got 3 different movements. The first 4 songs are like the more catchy, like singles and statement pieces by Kvelertak. And then the middle 3 are kind of like the more melodic and sludge-oriented riff songs, with like the peak being that Sultans of Satan track. And then the final 4, they're really kind of experimenting. The songs are longer. They're going in different directions. There's almost a bit more like prog element in the songwriting, where it's just like kind of a maze as you're navigating some of these tracks. To kind of name the songs, I mean, damn, I love all 4 of the opening songs. Like my favorite would have to be Bloodtorst and Mjod and Fossegrim. I mean, so I just named 3 out of the 4. I love the hand claps. There's the piano in the closing of Bloodtorst, where it just comes in, and I just envision this guy on the piano going, like this old timey piano. I fucking love it. I'm like, holy shit, who let I'm just picturing this Viking brawl with this guy on the piano in the background. It's fucking awesome. And tambourines and I don't know, the whole mess. For me, it just works. And then the middle 3 tracks, the highlight is probably Sultans of Satan. I didn't hear any Jimi Hendrix, but it probably is there. I wouldn't be surprised. I'll have to, spin it again, or maybe I won't, and I won't ruin it for myself. But I just love it. It feels the most of that sludgy style, and I like the breakup with like the cleanly sung chorus. There's cowbell in here. Come on, more cowbell. Great riffs on that one. And then finally, when it opens up with the more interesting, like closing tracks, like Necroscop and Licktorn. Licktorn is probably, that's an easy top song on the album. It really does go a lot of different directions, and it starts out very like atonal, and that's one of the 3 blast metal sections, blast beat sections there. And then it goes into this just experimental. And I know that this is, you talked about this, Kellen, right, where you feel like it's going to go into a darker direction, but then like psych, let's party, and that's how it ends. And I love it. And then I love how the album opens with them shouting their name, Kvelertak, and then on the final song, track 11, that's how they close it, also shouting their name, before it just like kind of fades out into this just rock and roll jam session. It's fun. I don't know. It's smile on my face.
Jim.
Fuck yeah.
Well timed. Yeah, I'll pretty much the opposite of everything that Logan just said. Like, I really don't like Yod with the tambourine and the rockabilly piano. I mentioned that earlier. The hand clapping, like, really is the death knell for that song. And they do like a tambourine vocal break on the last track about 2.5 minutes in. I'm like, what is happening? It's like this thing is like tailor made to irritate me or something. But at the same time, there are some highlights. Like again, I mentioned Fossegrim earlier. I think that's a super strong song. I love how it starts out with the aggressive vocal. It really sounds black and roll to me. I like the mid-tempo black metal riff that's about halfway in the song. Necroscop, I think that has some cool cymbal work. I was talking about the drummer earlier. That's primarily what I was referring to, was the drum work in Necroscop. Has that black and roll feel for sure, but in a good way. It's more balanced here. And there's a good good straight beat that's driving, and it's followed by like this dual guitar solo in that. So there's some interest in that song where it really like has more of a, instead of it just being like a rock band with a little bit of metal vocal in it. Like I felt like that song, like that's where they got the balance right. It really is rock and metal, evenly distributed there. Even the title Necroscop, like that sounds metal, right? I mean, it's a good song. I will agree with Logan on Licktorn. That one, yeah, full on black metal riff to start that song with, and full on black metal drums with a blasting. The vocals really feel harsh there. I appreciate like the there's like a male choir type section about 3 minutes in, and it sounds really strong. So yeah, that song I think is kind of emblematic of Kvelertak at their best. So for me, if you don't listen to anything else, you listen to those 3 songs, and I think that's where they're at their strongest here. But as a band, I think their third album is the best sounding, the most metal, the more dark. It's more dark and brooding, and something that Kellen alluded to earlier was like in terms of emotion, like it's very one note on this record. I feel like what I heard from the third record was, yeah, the rock's still there, the fun is still there and all that, but there's like there's a little bit more push and pull emotionally on that record, and I think they kind of have more to give on that one. So I think if you're interested in this band, I would check that one out. But yeah, if nothing else, 3, 8, and 9 are the songs on this one.
I think my favorites on here, the Ulvatid, as we mentioned, Scott Host from Tolka on there. The sharp black metal style tremolo riffing, there's a definite distinct harmony line to it. Then it slides pretty abruptly into downpick rock riffs. I mean, there's a decent feel to the song, even, the conflict of styles, it works. As the album progresses, the band kind of forsakes that and leans more into the rock, which fine. The Mijod piano key, yeah, the piano thing. They do it twice on the record that I remember, and it isn't. They don't do anything with it. It's just like a ding, 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 ding. And they do it the same thing in both songs. It's kind of funny, but then to do it again, almost the same key, it's like, okay, this was in the other song. I get it. But on this song, there's one black metal riff sandwich between a pretty good rock riff, makes the black metal side of their sound like it's just passing through. They make it work, but I don't love the experiment. Yeah, Fossgrim, that one to me, the meat of the song, it sounds like a throwaway track from the now diabolical Satyricon album. The riff has a similar slide to it, if that makes any sense. There's like a kind of a sleazy slide in that riff. Sounds like a Seder riff. Then it shifts to Fu Manchu by way of the Allman Brothers, which is a weird kind of transition in the song. I mentioned earlier, it sounds like two bands fighting over the stereo at a party, which it's fine. It works. They do well with it. We're gonna skip that one. No one mentioned that "Oh for Not" song. It's got Ryan McKinney from Trap Them on vocals, which pretty interesting. My favorite, as I mentioned, Sultans of Satan, my least favorite on the album. The ghost chorus comes in. I'm like, oh, there it is. There's the ghost chorus, and it's weird. It's anticlimactic to what the song's doing. I guess I did not recognize the Jimi Hendrix lick on there, but yeah, but it seems like after that Sultans of Satan, the album it leans a little bit more into the 70s, but they also kind of find their own sense of identity in the last half of the album. Lick Torn, a favorite, perhaps the most metal intro with the blast beat, which they do return to, dissonant riffing, and then they move off into more of a spacious trip, which it kind of defies all genre classification. They're just doing this spatial kind of exploration thing within the song. As I mentioned, everything that the band is messed with on the album is all in this song, but they kind of find their own identity in it. They talked about the freedom, and it's kind of here. And I guess I would have liked to have heard this maturity kind of sprinkled in the front of the album too, a little bit, but there's nothing other than that Sultans of Satan song. There's nothing on here that I'm just like, God, I hate this. Maybe I'm just not in the mood for it, because it doesn't suck. The music is really well done. The vocals aren't offensive. Yeah, I don't know. Let's talk about Judgment and final thoughts. Kellen.
So not my favorite. I mean, it's interesting though. Like, I've been thinking about when records sort of appear and like what kind of context we are allowed them to sort of be included in the metal conversation. So the question that you had tonight, Logan, I think like that is room for so much debate on that question. And I'm happy this album, like, I know you maybe the next pick you choose will be a little bit closer to home base for the channel. You've been venturing out a little bit, but we need those records, man. And yeah. And so it's not my style at all, but I think that the overarching sort of recommendation for anyone who's potentially curious based on our discussion is, if you're interested in like a lot of stuff that we listen to potentially or we talk about on this channel is a bit too extreme, like this is a good way to sort of venture into something that's a bit more approachable. And this band's got an interesting bunch of styles going on. I have not heard the rest of their catalog though. So multiple times tonight, Jim's brought up listening to the other records. And a part of it, this could be, their debut record, their first early ideas when they don't know quite who they are as a band. I think we might be sort of judging them based on like a consummate sort of identity as opposed to just one sort of step on the road. So it's not my favorite record for sure, and I wouldn't necessarily grab it, but I don't think that there's obviously, you said 15,000 copies, this big thing in Norway. So
I think it got him a gold record.
Yep, it was gold
record. Like, what the hell do I know? So
Yeah, who cares what we say? I mean, other people like it and bought it, so fuck us, right? Yeah. All right. Jim.
Yeah, going with my usual thing, would buy if it was a good price or not buy. Yeah, I think it's pretty clear this is a not buy for me. It's not my thing at all. There are some cool moments on it. Like, it's not bad music, but it's just not what I want to hear. It's like when I want to listen to rock, when I want to listen to rock, I want to hear rock. When I want to hear metal, I want to hear metal. And if they do cross, I want them to be more balanced or to lean, more metal. You know what I mean? So I think this is way more rock with like a little sprinkling of metal. So it just doesn't hit right for me. Like I said, I'm interested in exploring the third. I didn't listen to the entirety of the third album, but what I did listen to, I liked a lot more than this. I would listen to that one some more. And if it has more of that darkened kind of vibe that I, took from the first, couple of tracks or whatever, I could see this, I could see that one being something I'd pick up, but this one here, it's just got a lot of things that I don't like very much, in different contexts. So, are these guys great musicians? Yes. I mean, is it professionally curated and produced? Yes. But it's just not for me. So it's going to be a pass this week.
Yeah, pass for me as well. If I had on the grading scale, it's a 5, and that's not the musicianship, the talent. I do like their bold experimentation of trying different things. They're trying to breach the gap between, multiple genres here. The rock and the stoner stuff kind of prevail in the battle, which is fine. But for me, it's just sometimes we listen to albums throughout the week, and if I like it, I pursue listening to other albums. That thought never occurred to me on this. I couldn't wait for this one to be done. I was like, I don't want to go check out I don't care where they go after this. I'm sure it's going to be better. I just don't, it just isn't my wheelhouse. It just isn't my wheelhouse. I struggle with black and roll. That's the first problem. I don't know why. I just, there's it's fun, but as soon as Satyricon started down that road, what are other bands? What's the band that came out of Vinder? The members of Vinder, I can't remember.
With the V, right? Braid,
yeah, Vraid or whatever. Yeah, that just should have been something so much better, and it's black and roll. I struggle with it, and then lock into the rock stuff. It just didn't jive with me. I mean, I can listen to Thin Lizzy all day long. That's amazing, but you start putting black and roll with something, I don't care. It's just not for me. So Logan, obviously it's a banger for you.
Well, let me see if I can balance this out here. But
yeah.
No, I mean, this blew my mind when I first heard it back in the day. I mean, just a unique landmark of an album to me. And I don't know, I felt like they veered away from this, which maybe you guys would like that more. I mean, their follow-up, 2013 is close. This is Mir, which came out in 2013, but it plays a little bit more like the stoner kind of, plays more with the sludge elements. It's a bit more focused though as an album. And then this is the one that Jim, you said you might like. Knatsford came out last.
That's the one.
Yeah, this is my least favorite of the ones I've heard. So maybe that's a good thing, and you would like this one. I always thought it just feels a little bit slower, and it lacks that rock and roll energy. So,
which is why
I hope I'm selling it to you. And then they split ways with the singer, who I loved his vocals on it, and bit not quite as good, but still. They really play more into the Turbo Negro and like punk rock style, and like the black metal is basically gone with the new era. So if that's what you're looking for, I would recommend, I guess, this one. But I don't know. It's all about the debut for me. This is a masterpiece. I won't hide it. I think this is a 10 out of 10 album for me. That could be because it's deeply rooted in a nostalgic era for me, right at the beginning of getting into, metal, discovering music. I mean, I just enjoy this. It hits all the right notes with what I like as a metal fan and a music fan. And Kvelertak, just a fun band. I don't revisit it as often these days, but it does have a special place, in my heart and in my listening experience. Definitely comes out around the summertime and the let's get a barbecue going and just sit outside drinking beers kind of time. So yeah, cheers guys. Thank you for letting me subject you to some of this whatever you want to call it.
That's what we do here.
Appreciate it,
good.
guys.
Yep, all good. And who is picking for next week?
Well, I mean, I guess because I was gone pretty much for 2 weeks, it's most likely my turn.
Okay,
So
it's your turn.
it's my turn. All right. So we're heading over to Mexico. Shub Nigroth. King-like celebration.
Cool. Right on. Good band. It'll be a cool, dark Mexican death metal. Something to dig into there. Awesome. Cool.
Sure.
Lovecraftian.
Yep. Well, let's see. Friday, we are doing the thrash bracket, and Jim will be there. Melanie loves death metal. Simon, Alan, and myself. I'm working on the list now that everybody suggested from the Discord server. So we'll be picking. Why don't you put it in the chat, the proper spelling of that?
Yeah, I got it.
It's gonna be a fun time. 32 bands, debut thrash albums pitted against each other in a bracket style thing, like we did for the death metal. More people on, so there's more votes to go around. It won't be two people that have a sentimental connection to an album voting off the other person. So it'll be good. And yeah, anybody have anything to add? Channel stuff going on for Killing for Company or Metal and Beer Snob?
I mean, I've been out of the mix, away from anything really music related. So hopefully this Sunday I'll sit down and get something recorded for you. I don't know if you saw Marty, New Helm's Deep promo did come through. There's a dragon and it has a flaming rocket pack on the album cover. So just saying, this could be promising.
Yep, there it is. Oh yeah, it looks good. I like the debut quite a bit. Yeah, Kellen and I are going to be reviewing that together for sure. How about you, Logan? Anything coming up on the channel?
I gotta probably do a review for Metallurgy tomorrow or sometime over the weekend. And then I gotta get back to making a couple more YouTube videos. So hopefully something in the near future.
Sweet. Jim, anything coming?
Nope, just the Friday thing, for, I guess, is this my, oh no, I've done the end of year stuff before. So besides end of year, this will be my first regular.
You've done another one too. You were on, I can't remember with who.
Well, you came with me for a year, 2009. You joined me that.
Yep.
Oh, I did? Wow.
Yep.
Old man memory.
It was over a year ago, I want to say.
Yeah. All right. Well, so my second Friday for a non-year-end list.
Right on. Okay. Well, everybody, thanks for joining us. I hope you all have a good night and a good week. And tomorrow there will be a review up from Rick from the Dreadful Minutes. I can't remember what the album is. I'll be editing that tonight. Should have done it Sunday, but Andor happened, so I've been watching Andor. Anyway, cheers, everybody. Priorities, We'll see you on Friday. Have a good one.